first, Rob, and we talked about this briefly yesterday. It was Naomi Osaka, and we all know that she pulled out of, what was it, the French Open in Roland Garros?
Yep.
A month or so ago because she didn't want to speak to the media. And she wrote an article this week in Time magazine explaining herself. And she said that the way the press conferences are set up should be different. She gave two kind of suggestions on what she thinks should be done. So one of them was that she said the format of the press conference, and for those, most people know what the press conference is like, but, you have the participants or whoever the athlete is being interviewed, they're sitting up on a dais, and you have, the media sitting beneath them somewhat in chairs. So it might be 50 media, 100 media, whatever.
And there's a certain amount of time for a certain amount of questions, and everybody can't ask a question. And I don't know, Chris, most press conferences,
most of
10 minutes.
Tame.
Yeah, 10 minutes. It's not an hour long. You're not grilled by 40 reporters. It's not even close to that.
Not at all. And she and I'm not sure what she meant by this, Rob, but she said that the problem with the press conferences, in her opinion, is that they are it's too subject object. And instead of being subject object, well, I guess she feels like, what, I don't know, she's the object, the athlete is the object, and
that's what
your reporters are asking that person the questions. Instead of that, it should be more peer-to-peer. Now, what in the world could that mean? Other athletes up there together just talking, like we just played each other, so we get up there and talk about the event?
Right, and you can't ask questions.
Right, like what'd you think of that? That first round was really tough. Or I don't know. What did she mean? You can't change the dynamic between the media and the athletes, right? They're not being rude. Media's just asking questions. And
I just want to remind people, the questions are for the fans.
Right.
I want to make sure everybody understands that. They think they're punishing us sometimes, Chris. They're not punishing us. We're going to get paid whether you talk to us or not.
We can write a story with or without your quote.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
We would rather you have input, right?
Right.
You played, so we want to hear from you. We know what our observations are from watching the game, but maybe you can give us some insight. So, Chris, when we write our piece, we understand why you missed that ball, what happened, we're not going to, instead of giving us a license to guess and come up with our own reasoning, we're allowing you to have a voice. That's all it is.
Yep, that's it. And so that was her first suggestion. And then her second one was that some of the athletes be given a sick day, a mental health day, where they don't have to talk. Rob, I was watching Speak for Yourself on Fox Sports 1 today, and they discussed it. Marcellus Wiley and Emmanuel Acho, the two hosts, and Rick Bucher was the guest on that segment. But I thought Marcellus had a really, really great take on it. And, of course, Marcellus played in the NFL.
He's a Columbia grad, a smart guy.
Yep,
you know what I mean? He's thoughtful.
He had a really great take, in my opinion. Here it is.
Let's talk about that you're a tennis player, okay? That's what everyone calls you. But you got to internalize that different. You're not a tennis player. You're a person that plays tennis. And it's time to start playing the game within the game the same way you play tennis. I noticed in this article that Naomi says that she likes to speak from the heart and be genuine. And she has not done any formal media training. I would ask Naomi, the great #1 tennis player in the world, would you ever try to play tennis without any formal training? No. So if you're going to try a sport to become #1 and great at it with formal training, you should do the same when you're talking about mental health issues and media relationships. You can't walk through the jungle of professional sports and just want to pet the nice lions. There are lions everywhere. You have to pick your spots and be able to internalize it properly.
I thought, and that was obviously strong, but one thing that's not in the clip, Rob, he basically said this. He said, look, there obviously is a push, and it's legitimate, to make mental health put it on par with physical health, right? In athletics, okay? So you hear the athletes and everybody talks about the importance of mental health now. It should be just as important as physical health. Okay. And I'm paraphrasing what Marcellus said.
Okay.
And he said, okay, professional sports, and when we talk about the physical aspects of the game, guess what? If you can't cut it, then you can't make it. They're in professional football, basketball, tennis, baseball, track, whatever. If you're not strong enough physically, guess what? You can't play. If you're not fast enough, if you don't have the skill set physically, then you can't play it on the professional level. And he said, if we're going to put mental health on the same level, then the fact is this. If you can't cut it mentally, then you can't play. And I thought that was powerful, Rob, because a part of professional sports is dealing with the media. And here's why. Because if it wasn't for the media, and I've said this before, if it wasn't for the media putting your games on television, writing about your games on the internet, in newspapers, in magazines, whatever, then you just be somebody playing a game. And you wouldn't be making the millions of dollars that you're making. It's as simple. Am I wrong, Rob?
No. And here's the
It's as
other
simple
part.
as that.
Here's the other part, Chris, that so she wants a mental health day, but when you take the mental health day, Chris, you can't play tennis that day either. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
She wants to play tennis, come off the court and say, I need a mental day. I can't do it. You shouldn't. If you're diagnosed and you need a mental day, Chris, you should also not play that day.
Yeah. If
you,
your mental is that, messed up,
right,
that you need a day off. And here's my thing.
But that's not what they want, though.
She
wants
wants
to
talk
play.
With the press.
Right. Just call it what it is. If you had a mental thing, and we all respect that, okay? I get it. But it's got to be consistent across the board, not just because on a day when you don't feel like doing your obligation that's a part of your job description, Chris. That's why when she got fined in Paris, 'cause it's in the bylaws, right? It's in the rules.
Right.
But why do you think they put it in there? So that players couldn't say, wow, I didn't know I had to talk to the media. It's not a part of anything I signed. Oh, yes, it is.
Right.
Yes, it is.
You got to grow the game. And that's why you get fined.
Yes.
Because the leagues understand that they need the media. And so I just think, and look, I get it. Some people are different. People have different personalities. Some people, have different anxieties. They don't like doing public speaking. They get uncomfortable with it. I understand that. That's something that can be worked on, right? If I had to work on my fastball to make it in the majors or my curve or whatever, then I would work on it. And you may have to work on the way you deal with the press. If it makes you that anxious,
Chris, there's so many
then
other
have media training to understand how to handle it better.
And there are plenty of professionals out there that can help you.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Like who can help you how to deal with them. How do you go into it? When the questions get to a point where you're good, you just say, thanks, I'm done.
Right.
And Chris, we respect that, right? You gave us 5 minutes. You let us ask a couple questions. And when they say I'm done, we're good. Okay?
Yep. Absolutely. And I just think that mental health is real, or mental illness, mental problems.
Oh, no doubt.
Right. But sometimes, I think, my opinion, a lot of what's being thrown into the mental health category are just basic human, Rob, how many times I'm growing up, going to high school, there are plenty of times I didn't feel like going to school. There are plenty of times I didn't feel like I had to give a speech one day and I was nervous, right? I didn't want to give the speech. I didn't think I'd do well. Like certain things you just have to overcome in life.
Right.
Or you can't be in a certain profession. What if I wanted to be a politician and I had great ideas and a lot of people acknowledge those are great ideas.
But
But
you couldn't give a speech.
I couldn't give a speech, or I couldn't handle the scrutiny. Like I couldn't handle talk shows and radio shows and, pundits talking about me in a negative way. Then guess what? I can't be a politician.
You can't do it. And you know what's funny? I think it's Barbara Streisand who was had stage fright, right? But you can't be a singer. You just can't be a studio singer.
Do?
But she overcame it. But I think she got some help. But I'm almost positive it was Barbara Streisand who wound up being one of the all-time greats. Right?
Absolutely.
But she had to get help and fight through it. I'm almost positive.
So she could perform live.
Because, Chris, you just can't be a studio singer. You got, musicians, they make their money in singers by going on tour. That's where they make all their money.
Right.
So if you come out, I saw her at the Palace, 21,000 people. She's got to be able to overcome that. So if you have an issue with that, I get it. Everybody's not the same.
Right.
Get some help, but stop trying to reinvent the wheel.
The industry.
Right. Stop trying to do that.
Right. And the other thing is this. She talked about the press conferences give her anxiety, I guess. Well, social media, and it's been proven, Rob, that social media is one of the things that's leading to a lot of this depression and anxiety that people, particularly younger people, right, are feeling. And so some of these younger people, I don't know if she's off social media, but I bet you that causes a lot more anxiety than just a run-of-the-mill press conference. Real talk.
No, I think you're right. And a lot of kids, because there's all kinds of stuff. There were kids at one time, Chris, when New York City went to uniforms for kids. Right?
Right.
Do they have that in Jersey? Right? Uniforms for the kids, or you don't know? Because your kids went to
I'm not
Catholic
sure.
school,
They went
right?
to private schools.
Private school. But they had uniforms. You know why they had uniforms?
For because they were competing,
kids,
right?
They were competing.
Right.
If they didn't have on the designer jeans or the Jordans or what, the kids would ridicule them, and kids didn't want to go to school.
Right.
So I know. And that's what we're just talking about, people saying stuff about you, whatever, not being able to deal with it. And I agree with you when it comes to social media and people, ripping on other people or making them feel small, or they're not, look at what they're doing, look at the car they're driving, all kinds of stuff. It's a lot.
Right. Yeah, look, we're not trying to bash Naomi Osaka at all.
Not at all.
We're saying if she may just have anxiety about talking about her challenges on the court, because that's what it seemed like, Rob. It's no coincidence that she struggled. Was it on clay? She struggled on that surface, and she didn't want to answer questions about why she struggled.
Why she's so good, but she struggles on clay.
Right. And it probably is not. She wouldn't have a problem if she felt it was going to be all positive, but she had a problem with that. So again, that may just be something you don't feel like doing, but you know what? You got to get through it and do it. I think those are such valuable lessons in life, Rob. How many times I didn't want to go to school for one reason or the other? How many times I didn't want to do this or do that, and my parents made me do it? That was good for me, though. Life is not just a bowl of cherries all the time. And sometimes we have to you just got to overcome some things. And sometimes I feel like people we feel like everything's got to be perfect for us nowadays. And if it's not, then we got to change it.
And that's not the way life is. You just got to, there's trials and tribulations. There's rough patches. You just got to work your way through it.
There's people that are going to be mean to you, people that aren't going to like you for one reason or another. It's just life. And so we like I said, we're not trying to bash her. She's a tremendous tennis player, and Rob, I love some of the things she's talked about. She's very smart, and she seems like a really good girl, great woman. But you can't. This is misguided, and so you just gotta. If you need help in that regard, then get help and learn how to better handle these situations. and then you go forward.